Hi, this is Wes, and this is 7.1 assignment. And I did the reading. The book I chose was "You Are What You Love" by Smith. And to summarize it, I think a quote on page 33 summarizes a good chunk of the book. He says, "As lovers, as desiring creatures, and liturgical animals, our primary orientation to the world is visceral, gut, versus cerebral or thinking. We're not just thinking people. There's something different. There's something deeper than that. It's from the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. And knowledge plays a part in what you digest, but habits are another important part. In fact, he says his central argument is that humanity is more than just a thinker. They're habitual people who act from the subconscious rather than their conscious thinking. He pointed out that only 5% of what we do each day is done through deliberate thinking. Because we act more from the subconscious, we should focus on habits and practices or liturgies that develop our subconscious. Smith points out that imitation and practice of gospel and God centered liturgies can redeem our polluted subconscious and develop true love or holy habits that flow from the abundance of the heart. Smith said, and because love is a habit, our hearts are calibrated through imitating exemplars and being immersed in practices that over time index our heart to a certain end on page 21. True rehabituation will happen as we understand deeper the love Jesus has for us, even when we were his enemies. That was a book summary. Some takeaways that I learned was number one, Smith commented on a movie from 1980 about some people who had a decision that included stepping into a room. But two of the people were reluctant to step into the room because they said this: what if I don't know what I want? Smith talked about telos, a goal, and that humanity is on a journey toward an end goal, some kind of a goal. And I was thinking about the room in heaven. Our end goal as believers is to make it to heaven. I know there's things on earth we want to accomplish. Um, we want to accomplish bringing glory to Christ. We want to bring Him honor and glory. But I'm thinking of heaven. I remember as a kid thinking a lot about heaven. I grew up in a pastor's home. Mom and dad both worked for the church, and more love than money kind of a deal, and saw all the neighbors, new bikes and dirt bikes and all the stuff that I thought, you know what, I can't have it on this side of heaven. I'm going to have it on that side of heaven. And so I began at a young age forming an ideology of what I perceive heaven would be like. And then the more you study about how heaven's going to be a time of worshiping God and bringing honor and glory to Him and doing the work that He wants you to do, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a place of a bunch of dirt bikes. And maybe because that's not going to be what I really want. And so what I found in reading this book is that my subconscious, my habits, the liturgies of the world has been a big influence on what I perceive my wants to be. But in a glorified body, I'm not sure that that's going to be my true wants. And what Smith is teaching that I'm getting out of the book is that we need to indoctrinate, we need to feed ourselves a continual and consistent diet of Christ-likeness, of the gospel, of connecting with other people. Our entire environment needs to be one that saturates us with the love of Christ, not just mentally, but in a subconscious level, to where our actions become based off of just holy habits. So that was one of the takeaways. Another takeaway is he said on page 63 about rehabituation. He said spiritual formation in Christ requires a lot of rehabituation precisely because we build up so many disordered habits over a lifetime. In my spiritual life, I've not practiced enough discipline, and I'm concerned that I don't really love all the right things. As my mom used to tell me about broccoli, if you eat it enough times, you'll learn to like it. When Jesus said, if you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part of me, many left because that was not appetizing. Even though what Jesus was saying is, he says, I must be your everything. But really, that's not always appetizing when you're constantly feeding yourself worldly liturgies. Another thing I took away is that worship is the heart of discipleship. If and only if worship is a repertoire of spirit-endued practices that grab a hold of your gut, recalibrate your cardia and capture your imagination. He said that on page 83. Some takeaways I'm going to apply to ministry is, when seminaries, with seminary ending, I'm concerned that I won't study as much. I still have to write sermons and things like that, but seminary creates more of an environment of just learning and learning and learning. And I guess I find it ironic that this last class has propelled me almost violently into the reality that knowledge is not the telos or the end goal, that it's something different. And so I just, at the end of this, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I've come to the end realizing that I've put so much emphasis on the cerebral rather than the visceral, rather than my gut, rather than forming holy habits. And so now I'm that's one of the things I'm going to take away is it's just propelled me into this desire to rethink, not using my head, but how can I think now with my gut? How can I feed my spiritual soul and heart material where I respond to all of life through this worldview of Christ? And it's like that's now going to be a stronger pursuit. And I don't want to say Wesley Seminary hasn't always taught me this. It's just interesting it took me this long to really grasp hold of this lesson. I want to get to a place where I could walk in the room and be confident that I know what I love and want. I'm not sure I want all the right things right now. And more importantly, the biblical teaching on creation, this is another one, is a charge, a mission, a commission that sends us into God's good but broken world with a calling. It's another thing I want to take from this is that as a pastor, my calling is to live in the image of God and to unfold creation's potential and to point people to Christ and heaven into a goal that brings a holy want, to where when they step into the room and they can answer this question, I know what I want. To point people to Christ and heaven into a goal that brings a holy want. Finally, we're called to occupy creation, to take up commission. I don't want to only live for the world to come. I want to live for the world I'm in now, and to teach people that you can find holy contentment here while also having a citizenship in heaven. So this has been a great book. Thank you for having one of these as a choice.